Hey guys, we're currently running our famous W Coupe sale. You get the chance to save up to $1,000 if you get the Turn Masterclass and paired in a bundle. You get access to the ICM tier that we just recently launched, as well as the Turn Masterclass expert version with all the features, all future updates included, as well as a refund period. So if you're not really sure, you can sign up, check it out, and then at least 7 days, if not even longer, I'm not 100% sure. No questions asked. If you don't like it, we give your money back. If you don't have the money, don't forget, we still have the 5-day course that is for free, where I put a lot of knowledge into that course, and you already learned a lot about pre-flop, post-flop. Also, of course, for beginners, but it already goes quite deep. I put way more effort and work in it than I initially intended. So if you don't have the money yet, at least we can get you started. Also, if we have free quizzes and paired. But again, if you want to take it to the next level, now it's your chance. You can save a massive amount of money right now. This is the best opportunity right now to get so much content, so much value for so little. So check it out. Don't miss out on that opportunity. Don't know how long we're going to be running it yet, but not so long usually during W Coupe. So yeah, check it out and now enjoy the content. Let's have a look into a massive bubble spot here with ace king off. It's the stone bubble. 4 players are paid, 5 are left. We have ace king off. We're clear second in chips. And I want to go through that spot and show you what we are supposed to do with ace king off. And later on, I'm also going to show you how you should study ICM and how the impact of changing the stacks will also have a huge impact on our range. All right, let's get right into it. So ace king off here. I don't really want to have a shoving range. It's not worth it risking. Even with aces, we don't want to jam. Even with kings, we don't want to jam. And risking 38 big blinds to win 2 big blinds, I think this should be pretty obvious. He jams, which is really good. I should do lots of jamming here just to apply massive pressure on us. He does not risk of busting, and we're in a very dicey spot. And I'm asking you, what would you call? Would you call tens plus? Would you call ace queen? Would you call pocket eights? Would you call maybe only kings and aces? Would you call ace king? And I've of course prepared this spot for you guys. So first and foremost, I think we can also go through maybe the other players, because it's quite interesting to see what these players are supposed to jam in that situation. I never only look at ours, but because we also might be under the gun. And what would you be doing here with queen 10 suited, ace 8 suited? Would you go in with these hands? So let's begin with under the gun. He can still do a bunch of min-raise folding. That's very typical on the ICM. You're not committed. It's a super important concept to understand. And you can see a shoving range is really tight. I think calling ranges are also quite realistic here. I would usually just aim for the most profitable jams, so like ace queen, ace jack suited, king queen suited, tens plus, and then raise fold some of the suited aces. I will also want to induce with queens, kings, aces. So that's probably the range that I would play. If I feel like people are playing poorly against my min raise and are not giving me a lot of credit, we can even add a few more suited aces here. But I think it's very straightforward. And then for me in the cutoff, we shouldn't open a lot, because also there's like a huge collision likelihood here that when we fold, Wushu is going to be shoving a lot first in, right? We see 25% of the time roughly he's going to go all in, which is massive for us. We want the bubble to end as soon as possible, simply because I'm actually going to move this bit over so you can see that, because we're in ICM prison. So you don't want to get involved here with like king 10 off and shit, right? You don't really have an incentive to even just steal the blinds. You have an incentive to give the other stacks enough room so they can bust each other. So once you open like king 10 off, he's not going to be shoving all in here, queen 10 suited, ace 7 off, which you want him to jam from the button. And then potentially small blind. Maybe small blind, big blind going to be calling also often enough. So that is very important in second in chips. Don't get involved too loosely. So now we min raise. Yeah, we're actually supposed to have a jamming range according to ICM, but I'm not a big fan of it. And as we can see, small blind is supposed to jam here crazy. Why is he not jamming so much king X? Simply because only king queen, you block also queens, I think, which might be relevant. I'm not sure. But then you see that because we have lots of king X on our raise fold range. Like if you look here, we see it wants us to raise the king queen off, some of the king 10 suited. That's a significant amount of combos, right? So, and especially king jack king 10 suited as well, probably wants us to open shove ace queen. That's why having a queen is not that bad, but overall you want to have an ace. It's actually crazy how, and this is sometimes really fucked up in ICM, when our calling range is literally kings plus, ace plus, because you will be surprised, you see we call only aces. Like this bubble is so sick. You get 4 times the buy-in and you have 3 shorter stacks. That's almost as crazy as it gets as in a satellite. If you play smaller field tournaments and you have, let's say, maybe 2x the buy-in or like 2.5x, 3x the buy-in, maybe you see that also in small field like multi-table sitting goals. You have crazy bubble situations. And I would not bank on the fact, so for example here, I would not jam that wide because you see it's like super marginal, 5-4 suited and these kind of hands. Because if we give him kick, if people start calling kings and queens or even like ace king suited, these jams are just super terrible. And I would just do lots of 3-betting. I think that's so much better. So you don't need to be a scientist in order to understand that if we add kings and queens to the, I would have called kings as well. You also see that his shoving range here, because you think, Ben, if you take out aces kings from his shoving range, then probably kings becomes a call, right? We see one of the highest equity hands against kings, aces, ace king suited, ace king off are not in there. You don't want to run kings here against ace 5 suited. You don't want to have like a 65, 35, 70, 30 situation. It's not worth it bubbling every third time because technically with our stack, 99% of the time, we're going to be in the money. And the risk, the upward of being in the money overweights the risk of busting or potentially doubling up. It's just not worth it. So what you want to do is just playing super tight and not make the mistake of calling here ace king off. So again, make sure to not follow that blindly. I mean, I do expect people to open wider than that. I think they open all the suited aces, queen jack, queen 10 suited, maybe some more pocket pairs. Then the shove, especially with the ace x, it becomes really good. So it could be fine to jam them. What I would do is I would maybe open, add a few more hands, give him aces, kings and queens in a calling range, and then see how it does. And then if we jam, if we raise, he jams, Dex is supposed to overcall 10s plus here, which makes a lot of sense because we're technically folding everything. And he's gonna run into like a lot of dominators. So for these short stacks, they're supposed to be quite loose. I mean, loose in terms of like getting in the mix here with 10s, jacks. So let's have a look what button is supposed to open jam. The occasional 24% here. It's you will see that very often as a short stack, like 7, 8, 9, 10 big blinds, like between 20 and 30%. I think it's a very good rule of thumb, but if you have no clue of ICM or you feel very lost and you don't have confidence, then yeah, and you even see here that he wants to have a min-raising range. It's basically kings plus, and then a few min-raise folds here with hands that are the bottom of the shoving range that still have good blockers. And people are always like, you're always committed with 10 big blinds, but that's not true. You see here, he can easily min-raise fold because of the huge ICM pressure. And no surprise, small blind has an easy any 2 jam. He can also have some min-raises, but he can do whatever he wants. You see, just because big blind folds so much, that 3 deuce offsuited is almost as profitable as aces. Just because he gets so many, he only calls 3% of the time. So you're making all the money through the fold equity. Yeah, so pretty crazy spot. And big blind is supposed to call 9s against that. This is of course when you have a bunch of short stacks, it's crazy. Now I want to mix it up and show you how this situation looks if we remove 30 big blinds from this guy and give all the other stacks 10 more big blinds. Let's just make sure. Yeah, so big blind has, yeah, also 25 big blinds. Small blind has now 50 big blinds. Button has around 20, 25, 22 big blinds. We have our 30 big blinds or 40 big blinds, and hijack has also 25 big blinds. So now here, 22 big blinds, 25 big blinds, and also 25 big blinds, roughly, right? Like whatever. Because now what happens is you don't have a clear short stack. Everyone is between 20 and 30 big blinds, then us 40 big blinds, and the small blind also around 50 big blinds. So we have 2 big stacks and 3 mid stacks. So there's no real short stack. So now apply logic. Now the thing is, if you get too tight, if you would play similar ranges as in the previous sim, what happens is that you start losing way too many chips. And it's not guaranteed that you're in the money. Like everyone is 20 big blinds, and it will actually take a lot of time until people get into the danger zone where they are right now, where you will see more pre-flop all-ins. When everyone has 20 big blinds, you're not gonna have open jams. People rejam much tighter. They're gonna call. It needs to be a huge setup. On average, it's gonna last very long until someone busts, right? Assuming everyone is somewhat solid. So now I want to show you the exact same situation for us on the cutoff. You also see we start playing way more hands. We are much looser because now small blind is supposed to be much tighter, also against our open. Why? Because if he jams, we can now call much wider. Ace king off, ace king suited, queens, etc. For 2 reasons we want to do that. First, we benefit much more from the future game, right? As a chip leader, you don't mind that the bubble lasts longer. But if you have 5, 6, 7 big blind stacks, doubling up and being the chip leader is not so beneficial anymore because, statistically speaking, the bubble ends rather soon, right? We always work here with statistical likelihoods. Don't come up with, oh, but what with the short stack double ups? Yeah, it happens as well, right? But compared to that situation we're in right now, where we have a bunch of 25 to 30 big blind stacks, it's much more beneficial to take the risk as its second chip leader to double up, and then you can steamroll the entire table and just keep jamming against the mid stakes and be very aggressive and put yourself in a position where you can win the whole tournament. Very important concept. Second, now with our 40 big blinds, as I said, it drops from 95% being in the money, secured, just random number here, down to 80 or 75%. That means that, as I said, the bubble is going to take longer, much longer, and you as one of the mid stacks, you always want to call a tiny bit looser compared to the situation when the bubble ends rather quickly. Now it takes longer, so you will always call more hands because you have an incentive to end the bubble soon as a mid stack. That's not the case here. So that would be the case if you call against the 20 big blind stacks on a side note, because we get it all in against the chip leader. But as I said, the upsides are huge. Also, the thing is, if you play as tight as in the other stack size distribution with all the 10 big blind stacks, you will start bleeding out. You will start folding too many situations and losing chips, and then be in a position when maybe someone busts that you're down to 15 big blinds, 10 big blinds yourself. So you need to hit the gas pedal a little more than in the previous situation. So the moment when you're in a bubble situation, you have no clear short stack, you're actually supposed to be more aggressive and you can call off a few more hands. You can call off jacks, you can call off ace king when there's no 5 big blind or 10 big blind stack, right? So like, that is very important to, when you analyze an ICM situation, to take the exact same spot and change the stacks a little bit and see how it changes. Not necessarily your stack, just the other stacks, because it can change drastically. And we go from aces only to now ace king off becomes a call. And I would assume most people would fold ace king off in that situation as well. When everyone else here has 20, 25 big blinds, you're second at chips, right? No, you're not. And that is very, very important. And this, of course, also changes to larger field tournaments and middle field tournaments. But this is a small field tournament. And then we also benefit from doubling up because we have a much larger cut, share / equity on the remaining prize pool. Imagine, and this is a very important concept, you are on the bubble with 100 left and you double up. Yeah, it's not that beneficial because the next pay jumps are so small. But now there's so much more money on third, second, first, right? If we look here, that we immediately get a much higher share equity of the prize pool. with like 100 left, 90 left, like what are the shares, like 1%, 2%, 3%? ICM is always, yeah, you can lose your 12% share here, but you potentially boost yourself up to 25, 30, 35% equity on the entire price pool when you have a massive double up here again with the big stacks. But it's not worth taking the risk of like just taking that 1 or 2% of the price pool by making it into the money, because again, and then the next page might be 60 left. It's like 20 players more that have to bust, and you have 2, 3, 4 more blind increases until this happens. It's not really worth it, right? So again, ICM always compares what are you risking and what can you gain from it. Here, this is still a high, very high risk, but also very high reward. And if you do it with 90 left, it's not as high of a risk as here, but it's still a relatively high risk, but very little reward, right? So here, that's explaining these kind of situation in a nutshell. It gets even crazier when you have like a super large field, 10,000 runners, Sunday Million kind of tournament, Sunday Storm, 1,000 paid, you're at the stone bubble. You have literally no incentive to try to double up with 20 big blinds or 15 big blinds or 10 big blinds. You just want to make it into the money, because then the next pay jump is 800 left. And there's also like a tiny pay jump more, like $10 or whatever. It's not worth it, right? So it's very important to study these different types of tournaments as well, which we have in ICM paired, which you can do there. But as of for this particular situation, I wanted to share that with you because I think it's a super important situation to understand how to approach and how to shift gears when the stack size changes or the stack size distribution. All right, so yeah, I folded. I think that was the right fold. I would also not open a lot here, especially against good rigs. I think we just have to be very nitty here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, and let me know in the comment, what was your biggest bubble punt ever? I'm curious. I think we all used to have, we all experienced that, a big bubble punt. Yeah, let me know in the comments, and curious to see 4-bet jams, 3-bet jams, level wars. Maybe you called it off and was completely wrong. So yeah, I hope you guys found some value in that, and then see you next time.